Let's talk about the beams in general. How do they behave?
Okay, first things first, the beams are items that you can find in a building and beam commands. You can again right click here and find the properties, or you can go with the building properties and you can find a beam here. But either way, you can check what you will create and you can change their cross-section profile and all of the settings. Talking about the settings in general, all the beams, they have a cross-section which you can select from a larger library. The software is shipped with a library of cross-sections, and you can even create your own cross-section. All you need to do is just to draw the cross-section or import a DWG file, for example, and recognize the shape and save it as a closed profile. There's a command for that. I will show you that in a second. And then you can just select it. You can go to the libraries, and you can even find industrial profiles, like for example CHEA and so on profiles. You can just go there and select them. Again, in case of the beams, the software is shipped with styles. In case of the beams, there is only one style, but in case of the columns, you will see many more. And you can even again further enrich the content here. You can add your own styles, and you can even share your styles. You can change the visual style, the color, the layers, and so on. You can change the material.
Like a two-dimensional section versus a three-dimensional one.
Yeah, I think now I will go with the beach material, but again, you can just go to the libraries and find something. This is the base offset from the floor. And again, it's measured the same way as the slab itself was measured. There's a zero level of the floor, and from there the software measures the distance of this, and this is important, the reference point of it. So if I use 0 and I keep the reference point here, the center of this beam will be positioned to that place. If I use any of those top
and that's where the reference
items,
point is
then that's where the reference point is moved. I can set up an inclination, and I can even set up other settings like the arch beam and cutout recess, but we will talk about those later. But this is how you can set up how the beam looks like. And when you say okay, and you start drawing the beam, it's very simple. You can either do it in the 3D or you can do it in the 2D. You can just click on the beam option. You can click on any of those corner points that you already have in the 2D, and then you just type the length. This should be, I don't know, around 2.5 meters or something like that. And then you can just make changes, change the length, changing inclination, and even rotate it later.
You can move and multiply them.
Yeah. Before I do that, let me just solve this issue here. I have it's a bit off. You have two options. You can either use the move option and move it, or you can just go to the settings and change the reference point. That both works the same way. So it just, you have the same option. Now, if I'm about to multiply it, let's say I'm about to see 13 more of this. I just select it and I go to edit. Actually, I duplicate it. Well, no, let's just use the array. And this gives me the option to select this item and say 13 more I would like to see.
So that's 14 total, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. Just
with this specific corner point, I would like to take it, grab it. I'm actually not holding the mouse button, and just position it over here. And now I have all total 14 copies of this this beam here.
This looks like a nice shader, but what about if we could change the ending of the beams? How would you do that?
This is something that you can even find in the settings. Let's just go closer and we can see how it looks like. By default, they are very simple. They have a vertical cut and that's all. And then if I go here and I change the properties of this, I can find something called the ending part. This is the bottom and top ending, which in this case is very strange because they don't have a bottom and top ending. They're on the same level, but if this would be inclined, this would make sense. In this case it's just one and the other ending. If I'm about to change any of these, let's say I don't know which is the bottom, which is the start. Let's just change that and say I'm about to change it to, well, vertical and perpendicular. In this case is totally the same. So let's use a user profile. Let's go and find endings
Do you have to have an open chain for that, or
Yeah,
a closed profile?
for this you will have to have an open chain. But actually, if you just look for profiles, you will find quite a few ending profiles. Now the software actually listed a lot, but you can
there's quite a
find
few.
some of these are for actually for endings, for rafter endings and beam endings. So you can just select these. And as you can see, just as you mentioned, this is an open profile. It's not a closed loop. It's just a bunch of lines defining a specific shape. And this is the width and this is the height. Now, I think this was 20 centimeters tall, so I just changed it to the same. Or well, I don't remember if I changed that, but I can change it here. And okay, and then say okay and okay. And then I have this cut here.
See, if we zoom in, we can see that you have just changed the ending profile.
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah. And this is something that you can do on all of these. And actually, if you already created it at one of these items, you can just select it and say, okay, copy these properties to all the rest of these. And now I have the same ending
Then these are
everywhere.
inherited. Perfect.